And the impact was this profound connection to love and oneness, where I felt like there was nothing in the world more important than love, and that I loved everything and everyone around me. And it was so enlivening and it was so uplifting that I never wanted to forget that feeling. And so what happened was, of
Wow.
course, you cannot be in ceremony space forever. And so I, from that point forward, started really looking into the plant.
Hello, everybody, and I am here with Stephanie Wang from Empathogenics, or otherwise known as KA exclamation point, which is really, really cool. Stephanie, thank you for being here today. I'm so excited to have you on this show. It's been a couple of months we've been talking back and forth, and finally now is the day that I get to ask you some questions. But first, I want to dive in and let the audience know a little bit about you, your background, what you're doing in the plant medicine space, and then how you started this awesome company called Ka.
Thank you so much, Sasha, for having me on the Psychedelic Spotlight show. And really, really happy to be here. So I'm from Hong Kong, and my background was actually in finance. And over time, I went into film, and then eventually, finally, I was able to meld my interests, which is my passion, which is really about raising consciousness in the world and personal transformation and healing, um, with my professional work, which was awesome. And in terms of how and why I started Empathogenics is because of my own healing journey. I suffered from quite a bit of depression. And, I was always a seeker
Mm,
because I just didn't understand how, living this life could be so deadening. It just didn't make any sense to me. And I did a lot of my own healing work through a lot of different modalities, but it was not until I started doing plant medicine work about 10 years ago, 2013, that I found this amazing modality to really accelerate this process of healing and transformation. So this includes psychedelic plants like ayahuasca, psilocybin,
yeah, sure.
matcha, and also Kanna. And that was really surprised because Kanna, which is also called Scaletium tortuosum in its scientific name,
Yeah.
is a plant that is not psychedelic, but it's psychoactive. And my very first ceremony, shamanic plant ceremony, was actually with Kanna and not some of the other more well-known
Oh,
psychedelics.
interesting.
And yeah, and that created such a profound impact in me that I never forgot it. And the impact was this profound connection to love and oneness, where I felt like there was nothing in the world more important than love, and that I loved everything and everyone around me. And it was so enlivening and it was so uplifting that I never wanted to forget that feeling. And so what happened was, of
Wow.
course, you cannot be in ceremony space forever. And so I, from that point forward, started really looking into the plant. First of all, utilizing it for my own healing and learning more about the indigenous roots and the science behind it. And from that point on, just to see how can I bring this to more people in an accessible way so they don't have to just go to ceremony in order to experience it, right? And what's so special about Kana is also that it's completely legal. And
Hmm.
yet most people have never heard about it. So it's
Absolutely.
a
Yeah.
legal, right? And so it's a legal psychoactive and entheogen, which means It's a substance that actually produces this feeling of empathy and oneness and connection and love. And it's very unique that way. And, from a scientific standpoint, it's a serotonin reuptake inhibitor and a serotonin releasing agent, which means it lowers stress and anxiety and it also lifts mood. So there's multiple benefits, and those are just like two
Yeah.
of the very top ones.
So I've heard some people say in the more colloquial circles that this is nature's MDMA. Would you agree with that? Is it as potent? Is it very similar in the way it works on a heart-centered way or in a mind sort of heart connection way, would you say?
Thank you so much for asking that
Yeah.
question because we get that a lot.
Okay.
And so the only real similarity is that heart openness and that sort of, wow, I'm feeling so connected to everything.
Mm-hmm.
But besides that, it's really two very different things. So s- to start off with, Kanna is neuroprotective and neuroregenerative, which means you can actually continually take it on a daily basis and it's not going to harm you in any way. In fact, it's actually going to help you regenerate
Yeah.
and it actually helps reset your brain, which is amazing in that sense. Whereas the MDMA, of course, we all know it's maybe fun to have, but it's not something that is recommended to take continually
Mm-hmm.
because it is neurodegenerative. And also, MDMA has a myriad of side effects that are, or can be quite dangerous, and Kana does not. And also, MDMA can, for some people, be addictive, not for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And Kana is actually used to treat addiction in South Africa.
Okay,
So,
because I was going to ask, like, can somebody actually build up a tolerance to Kana or not? Like, how does that work? That was one of my questions, actually. Do you have to take more after a certain amount of time?
actually, no, which is
Okay.
another fascinating thing about
Wow.
it. I have been taking Kana now every single day, which has really been such a blessing in my life because it's kept me very even keeled.
Right.
And, and it again helps me every day as a CEO just to handle all the stresses.
Mm-hmm.
So the answer is no. What's really interesting is that you're not going to need more. If anything, someone might need a little bit more to begin with,
Okay.
especially if they have been, no, this is only if they have been, let's say, taking amphetamine salts like Adderall or something like that.
Okay.
So then they need a little bit more to have it kick in and to have it be felt in the body. But beyond that, you can taper down back to normal dosages. And also, what some studies have discovered that for serotonin reuptake inhibitors,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times that will go first to lower histamine in your body. So if someone has a lot of inflammation, it'll actually first go to lower inflammation, which is still amazing. That's awesome before they start to feel that lift. So some people may take it and they're like, I don't really feel anything. And we always encourage people to take it continually each day
Fascinating.
because you're priming your body to work with a substance that your body's never had before, right? And also because of the aforementioned factors, you may need more and you may need more continually until you start to feel it. Having said that, of
So
course,
much sense.
right? And
Yeah.
having said that, of course, it's not like a one size fits all. And of course, a lot also depends on your genetics and your unique sort of neuroreceptor
Sure.
distribution as well. So, so it's not necessarily 100% for everyone, but it's a very interesting plant.
It sounds a lot like taking psilocybin. It sounds like, or other plant medicines. There's no one size fits all, and you can't necessarily say this is the standardized dose of Kana. You know,
Absolutely.
on a daily basis, there isn't a standard. You have to kind of really tune in and listen to your body. What you just said was so interesting about it targeting the inflammation aspects of the body first, like what's happening inside the body. And I was talking to an amazing biochemist, Sean Wells, and he was talking about psilocybin dosages, and it was very interesting. He said If you're a really stressed out person who's not in a parasympathetic state and is really holding on to a lot of stuff, you might have a lot of inflammation. So a dose for you, even on a macro dose of like say psilocybin, will be probably a lot more, even though you're a tiny woman, than a guy that's 6'3" and is less stressed out, because that has a lot to do with your nervous system and how your body could actually like react to the plant and let it do its work. So it's interesting that what you're saying is kind of mirroring that. And then speaking of psychedelics, I was like in some Reddit forums the other night about Kanna. What's your opinion in terms of pairing Kanna with certain psychedelics?
Wow. This is also a question we get a lot. I We always actually recommend for people to try Kanna on its own
Mm-hmm.
because, first of all, it is a sacred plant, and I really like what you said earlier, Sasha, about feeling into it and respecting it and giving it its own space so you can have an experience with Kanna first, right? That's super important. And also, one of the anybody who has sat with sacred plant medicines in the past, they understand that it's about actually creating that space to work with that particular plant teacher. And Kanna is a sacred plant. It's been revered for millennia by the Khoikhoi and San indigenous tribes in southern Africa, because of its life-giving, benefits. And they used to take it on when they went on multi-day hunts, because not only was it able to lower stress and anxiety, it also has this amazing ability to give you a grounded sense of energy, as well as this feeling of connectedness. And another thing that's super interesting about Kanna is that it suppresses hunger and thirst, so that they could keep going under the hot sun, to keep on hunting the animal. So these are other benefits as well. But back to your question about sort
Yeah.
of stacking and, taking Kanna with other plants, I have to honestly say no, you could, but um, it's really not recommended. For example, psilocybin and Kanna are really not meant to be taken together. There could be some dangerous side effects. And, with same thing with taking Kanna while you're taking alcohol or some of these other
Mm-hmm.
plants, some of these other psychedelics. You just have to be super, super careful. And again, I don't think that that's necessarily the way to go about it, because this is an invitation for you to come into the space with Kanna. And there is a spirit to this medicine. There's a spirit to this
Mm.
plant. And I think as humans, we often go, ooh, stack it more, layer it on, let's see what happens. And that's fun. It's fun to experiment. I'm not saying don't do it, but just be mindful of what Kana is here to teach us as well.
Yeah.
So one of the big things to also know is that, for example, ayahuasca, psilocybin, they are considered from a shamanic standpoint spirit medicine. So it takes you out of your body, it brings you into the spirit world, right? And whereas Kana is considered heart medicine. So it's bringing you into consciousness through the heart. That means it keeps you in your body and in presence a lot more. So, yeah, so
Different,
one
very different intent behind it.
very different intent.
Yeah.
And and I will say though, in certain ceremonial circles,
Mm-hmm.
I have seen it done where, like, let's say, and I myself is also have also experienced this, maybe not doing it exactly the same time, but um, I've seen and experienced certain shamans sharing Kana first to set the tone in the room so that you're inviting everybody in the circle to commune heart to heart,
Right.
to
Yeah.
connect with each other in an open, empathetic, and deep way. So all the masks are gone. You're super, super real with each other, and you're in this sort of elevated space. But it will be a good hour and a half, 2 hours, or after until they give another dose of something else.
Okay, so spacing it out, not just like stacking it
Phasing it
right
out.
away. And I've
No,
also
don't do
heard that Kanna's really good at like really turning a bad trip around. Have you heard this as well? So if you're like, if you're
Yes,
freaking out that the anxiety is increasing or something like that, we're too much in our heads.
yes.
Apparently, a Kana can help you. Maybe it's because it's coming back down through the heart and not looking at everything through such a, you know, overwhelmed lens, but more of an accepting lens. Maybe that's part of it. Not sure, but apparently
That's
it helps
part of it.
people.
That's part of it. But the science behind it,
Mm-hmm.
which I'll explain, is also fascinating because what Kana is doing, it, like I mentioned before, it's a serotonin reuptake inhibitor,
Yes.
and it's also a serotonin releasing agent. So what that means is post journeys, right? When you're really depleted serotonin wise, it's great to take some Kana or some Ka, we recommend,
Yeah.
because it grounds you back into your body and it replenishes your serotonin. But to answer your earlier question about in terms of the science, so
Mm-hmm.
Kana also stimulates receptors for GABA, for opioids, for cholecystokinin, and for melatonin. And I'm just naming a few. And it also stimulates and excuse me, and it also inhibits an enzyme called PDE4. So what does that all mean?
Yeah.
In terms of the stimulation of receptors for cholecystokinin, for melatonin, for GABA and opioids, it means that it helps calm brain activity, it helps lift mood. The cholecystokinin part actually helps control appetite, but only hedonic cravings, so not homeostatic hunger. So it doesn't suppress hunger that you need to survive, but it does suppress cravings that you don't need. And
Awesome.
yeah, right. And the melatonin part is it really helps improve your sleep quality. So
Mm-hmm.
there's all that going on. And so it's doing a lot more than just working on one single receptor or one type of receptor, which also differentiates it from cannabis and from some of the other substances. And when you were mentioning the whole calming effect for anxiety when people are freaking
Yes.
out and bad trip, another interesting thing is that Kanna combines really well with cannabis. So, for example, some people um, experience paranoia when they're taking cannabis, and Kanna is wonderful because it takes that away.
Oh,
It really
interesting.
smooths the
Okay.
edges out, right? And
That's
it
me.
prolongs the yeah, yeah, and it prolongs the beneficial effects. Well, you're gonna have to try Ka for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it prolongs the beneficial effects without the the paranoia and the anxiety.
Fascinating. So I just want to touch on something a little bit here, because there's a lot of women in our audience, and
Mhm.
there's a lot of moms who do shrooms, and there's a lot of business women. And I find that as a, you know, as a woman who runs her own business, I'm always on the go. I'm a little stressed out. Um,
Mhm.
and I'm not connected with my body. That's something that I'm working on. That's a personal journey that I'm working on. So I like literally do not exist from the chin down most of the time. So I'm trying to like
I feel you. I
connect.
feel you. Totally.
Do you feel that like a daily dose of ka could like help, like it's like a shortcut? Do you know what I mean? Maybe a little bit to getting more connected with the heart and the body and getting out of the head.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't even call it a shortcut. I'd call it an ally.
An
It's
ally.
what we're to do. It's a herbal supplement for you to take every day if you wish. And it is safe to take every day. It's non-habit forming, it's non-addictive, and it has really good safety data. So that's one thing to start off with. But absolutely, I think women suffer from more anxiety, I think, statistically than men.
Mm-hmm.
And moms, CEOs, business owners, entrepreneurs,
Yes.
myself included, I used to get so overwhelmed every day. My issue was never about focus, it was always about overwhelm because of just how my brain processes things. I see everything at once, and sometimes that's just too much, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, Ka is a great supplement for that because It again, it calms the brain activity. It brings you into yourself. It grounds you into your body. Exactly that. And, not just for productivity, but for when you need to feel things. Because half the time when we're so busy, we're not even feeling our own feelings. We're completely disassociated from them.
100%. Yeah.
And then we have a meltdown and we don't know why. And
Right.
it's because we're
Yeah.
just not listening to our bodies, right? And that ultimately totally doesn't serve us. It doesn't serve the people we love, and it doesn't serve our business, right? So, Ka definitely is a big, is a big support for that. And we say, it really just helps you feel more connected, alive, and capable while you navigate everyday anxiety and stress, because that's what it does.
This is fascinating. It almost sounds like it could be good if you if you're on the spectrum a little bit with ADHD or ADD. Have you come across any studies that suggest that this is somewhat beneficial, even if it's an unsubstantiated claim, even if it's anecdotal? Have you heard anything about that?
Oh, there are absolutely studies that are that are out
Okay.
there that actually speak to this and how it helps with cognitive function and focus and memory, and also um,
Crazy.
working through problem solving
Yeah.
as well,
Okay.
creativity, all of that. Again, we really hope that there's going to be a lot more clinical studies on it, but there are those that you can actually find online that that speak to this. So absolutely. And I would add that anecdotally, we've been obviously, our customers have been asking us the same questions. And then we also have had people in our lives that have ADHD or have, been on some kind of SSRI like Prozac
Hmm.
for a long time and they just want to get off, or they just came off and they're looking for a non-pharmaceutical alternative.
Right.
So, in terms of ADHD, absolutely, we've seen it help people who, let's say, safely already got off the meds and they can, start trying CAW. And we've had some really, really excellent reports back and how it's been very supportive for them. And for people who have been on antidepressants as
Yeah.
well, again, always speak to your doctor because you've got to do it very safely to come off gradually, to come off any kinds of those kinds of medications. So listen to your doctor. But afterwards, absolutely, people have also tried CAW and it's been helping them enormously and they actually prefer it. So one of the things I do want to mention with CA is that the main contraindication
Yeah.
is anybody who's on SSRIs or MAOIs or SNRIs should not be taking CA.
Okay.
That's the only thing I will say that is not. I mean, it's not the only thing I will say, but it's the only contraindication mainly. So everything else, everybody else, and everything else should be fine. But if anybody has questions, they can always ask us.
Okay, fascinating. That was the next question I had for you was about that specific contraindication. And I find that sometimes contraindications are kind of like a blanket statement because there's some, 2% chance that some little thing might happen if you put these two things together. But it's worth diving into more and talking to your doctor about
Mhm.
it. Absolutely. And there are a lot of people who want to get off SSRIs. They are looking for a way to even just start to taper off, and
Mhm.
so it would be great if there was a way that you could start to taper off and introduce CA, with your doctor, obviously, sort of, by your side during that journey. But that is like probably one of the number one requests that we get at Psychedelic Spotlight and even at Bonfire. Folks are coming in that are on SSRIs and they're just desperate to get off, but they're scared because they don't know if there's something else on the other side that's going to help, alleviate some of the anxiety and the dependence that they have, with the SSRI. So it's nice to know that there are natural alternatives out there, that you're not going to be left by yourself in a desert. There are some beautiful plants such as Kanna and
Mhm.
Ka that can help you. This is fascinating. I wanted to just quickly touch back on something you said. It stuck in my mind when you said hedonic cravings. Is that something to do with like
Mhm.
hedonistic, kind of like I crave fried food and I crave alcohol? Like, is that what we're talking about in terms of cravings?
Yeah, what's even more addictive than heroin? It's salt, fat, and sugar,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so we all know when we're reaching for just one potato chip and then we end up eating the whole bag because the salt and the fat is so addictive in a way, right? Our brains just go like, "Oh my God, we want more,"
Yes.
when in
Yeah.
fact, do we need it to survive? Does we need it for our organs to function properly? No. We're not actually hungry for that. It's more of that kind of a response. So when I say hedonic cravings or hedonic hunger, it's the differentiation between that and homeostatic hunger. Homeostatic hunger is when we need to eat to survive and for our, body to and our organs to function properly. Hedonic hunger is when we're reaching for whatever the second bag of
Yeah.
chips or the whole pizza.
That's pretty much most nights at our house on the couch with Netflix. So, I have a couple of questions about the Ka product itself. So, right now you're focusing on Ka chews. Why not a gummy or something like? Why is it a chew? It looks like a very
Mhm.
interesting type of product, and there's other ingredients that you've actually synergistically put in with this aside from the Kanna. Can you get into the recipe a little bit and why it's a chew?
Absolutely. So, why it's a chew is because we wanted to create something that was really clean, that did not use plastics, elastomers, or sugars in it at
Okay.
all. So, gummies, like the traditional gummies,
Hmm.
they have a certain texture. So, our chews are not going to have that same kind of texture. But we
Okay.
essentially, this took us a long time, but we eventually invented a process that created that sort of chewiness without using elastomers or sugars or anything like that. So there's no chemicals in this product.
Wow.
And also, traditionally, gummies, they have a lot of sugar in them. So it's acidic to your body. We created a pH neutral product that's actually really good for your body. And on top of it, this particular production process we invented, it doesn't use any heat, which means none of the plant ingredients are degraded at all. So what you're taking into your body is super pristine, so super bioactive, super, all the nutrients are really alive. And because it's meant to bring aliveness into your life, it's meant to calm you and also make you come alive. And in terms of the other ingredients, besides Kanna, there are snow lotus, acmella, and let me go through these two amazing plants.
Sure.
So, snow lotus is an incredible plant that is a portable flower that actually is the highest growing plant in the world. It grows above 21,000 feet. So, it's from the Himalayas and it's again considered very much a treasured sacred plant because of its super anti-inflammatory benefits, and also because it helps maintain homeostasis, and it also helps anybody with any kind of cold malady. So, and that's just a tiny bit. It's also treasured for the skin.
Ooh.
In ancient China, all the ladies, like they just would love snow lotus for just to keep them looking young and beautiful. So that's snow lotus, and it works really well synergistically with Kanna. The other plant is Acmella, and the Acmella plant originates from the Amazon, and it is called the toothache plant because it has this analgesic quality, which means it kills pain. So way back when there was no Novocaine, people would chew this when they had a toothache. And so this plant is what gives the tingle when you take the ka chew. But it's not just for feeling the tingliness. What it's doing is it's super antimicrobial. And it's actually used it's used for malaria as well as HIV.
Oh, wow.
So it's used to treat those maladies as well. And but mainly it's super antimicrobial. So when you take the chew, what's also happening is you are stimulating the salivary glands, which actually prepares your mouth and your mucosal membrane for absorption of all the plant ingredients.
Wow.
And it's also cleansing your palate because it's super antimicrobial and it's cleansing you as it goes down into your system.
Wow.
And then there's also lavender and mint, and lavender, of course, is
Mm.
known to be, helpful for calming and soothing any kind of tension. And mint is an amazing breath freshener. And
It
yeah,
sounds like it
and
tastes good. It tastes good and it's just instantly sort of working. Does it take, oh wait, does it instantly work or does it take time for it to kind of kick in? Or I guess it depends on the person.
it depends on the person. It takes 5 minutes,
Okay.
sometimes even quicker. And but maybe I would say on average, I would say 5 to 10 minutes, but it's really fast actually.
Wow.
So not like something, oh my God, you have to wait like an hour to feel it.
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
Like going into a meeting, you could take your car and you're like, all right, I
Yeah.
got this. Oh, I love this. Okay, great.
And and we're also actually coming up and about to launch a new product, which is our Kanna tincture, which is coming out in June, which we're all super excited about. And for that one, it will kick in immediately, like because it's a sublingual. So
Okay. Oh, under the tongue. Excellent. I was actually going to ask if there was any other products coming out. So is it mostly all the same ingredients, just in a tincture form?
no,
No, no.
no, it's not the same ingredients. So I will let you find out what the ingredients are. No, they're different actually, and they taste very different, and it's a different experience. But what's actually super fun is that, because people are already asking, well, can I take both, and how do I take both? What's really cool is that the Kana chew, you can think of like what's a good analogy is cannabis, where you have edibles and you have vaping and all of that,
Yeah.
right? Or vaporizing. And so you know how edibles, when it gets into your stomach, you feel it even more and it lasts longer.
Yeah.
So the Kana chews are kind of like that. So because it has mass, it'll actually be more like a slow release and it'll last all day. So for me, I take one, I'm good all day, which is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
The tincture, you'll feel it for people who are like, no, I want that instantaneous, sort of feeling, and I need rescuing like right now, and I need
Right.
to feel that immediately. So that's great, but it may not last as long. So what we say is, if you're already taking a chew and it's a few hours later and you want a little top up, then you can also add a little bit of the tincture. And the benefit of the tincture is that you can, of course, measure the dosing a lot easier because it's
Okay.
per drop. Mhm.
Wow. So it sounds like it's a car rescue. That's my guess for the title. I don't know what you're going to call it, but it sounds like it's a rescue tincture that many of us may in fact need. So if I wanted to get your product today, do you ship worldwide? Is it available everywhere?
It is. We do ship worldwide, except for China.
Okay.
And, but yeah, pretty much everywhere.
Okay, excellent. And folks, I noticed that if you go to their site right now and you sign up for their newsletter, I think you get a 10% discount. So that is a good reason to go over right now and put your email into the email capture on the CAW website. What is the domain name of your website?
It's ohmyka.com, OHMYKA
I
dot
love
com.
that.
And actually, I would love to share with your listeners that if they follow us on Instagram, that they will get 15% off.
Oh, there you go. So a follow
Mhm.
gets you 15% off. Let's go right now. Tag a friend and who needs a little calming with the ka. I think that's great. I wish we could talk longer. I mean, I don't know if there's any more questions I have right now. I think I just need to get my hands on some ka and
Yes,
like
we've got a bit
try
of
this and get it to my girlfriends, get it to my busy moms. And have you had any? Yeah, one last question for the male population that's out there too. Have you had any feedback?
Yes, and thank you for asking that question because absolutely. So, what has been surprising is that, because people think of most of the time these kind of supplements, women tend to get, um, be more, I would say, the leaders
Yes.
in taking this kind of supplement. What we found is the guys that are super interested in this are actually loving it because not only does it help them chill, but it also improves their workouts. So I really want to emphasize this because we
Fascinating.
didn't actually get into this, and I'd like to add this as well, is that remember the indigenous that I spoke about of
Hmm.
South Africa? So they took it on multi-day hunts because it enhanced their endurance and gave them sustained energy.
Oh,
So
yeah.
that's where, right. So that's where the how Kanna inhibits an enzyme called PDE4 comes into play. So Kanna has a really interesting effect because it calms and uplifts and gives you energy at the same time, which sounds sort of oxymoronic, but
Yes.
it's not. It's actually how it works, right? And so the guys really like it because it actually really helps their workout. And this is not just for guys, women as
Sure.
well. So we encourage people to try it, to take it, when they work out because of the way of how we're able to resource more energy um, through the biochemistry of this particular plant. And we've had marathon runners actually loving it because it actually helps them and
Same.
supports them in their runs. Yeah, to stay consistent and keep going. Because again, that's how the indigenous used to use it. So I would say, besides the calming of stress and anxiety, the other thing that Ka is great for is for focus and also for enhancing endurance. And I would also lastly say, because I want to go back to the question about women, right?
Hmm.
And for moms and busy moms and busy business women, what Ka really is does so beautifully is its heart opening ability. And what that means is it helps us connect in a more intimate way, not just with ourselves, with our own feelings, but with another person, so with a partner. So what we've seen, and we've actually reached out to some moms or groups of organizations of moms, and what they have said is that especially after they have kids, they're just so busy, so their schedules are so intense and they're super stressed out and distracted, right? And they like Ka because it actually helps slow things down for them. It doesn't make you slow, don't get me wrong, but it actually brings you much more into your body so that you can handle everything that you need to take care of. And with their partners, because again, that intimacy time has been, not as available after kids, right?
Right.
So when they take it with their partners, they're also able to kind of slow down and connect with each other, be more present with each other as well.
Wait a
And it's
minute.
kind
This
of
is huge. Let's just talk 5 more minutes about this for a second, or even just like 2 minutes. So, um, women's sex lives. Like a lot of women aren't having orgasms. A lot of women are too stressed out. And there was this great doctor, I forget her name right now, but she was talking about the brakes or the gas when it comes to women's sex drive. And there's so many things in the day that put the brakes on when it comes to a woman's sex drive. It could be a crappy boss. It could be the kids. It could be the amount of stuff that she's taking care of. But every little thing is just putting one more brake on. And then sometimes our partners don't really understand because they always have their foot on the pedal. It's just kind of the way it is when you have like a typical relationship with a man and a woman. They're putting the gas on and you have brakes on, and so it's really hard to figure out a way to get that balance happening between gas and brakes. So women need to de stress a lot of the time and remove those brakes before they can really get into their own bodies and be present and enjoy the experience of
mm-hmm.
intimacy. Where males have less of an issue with that, they're kind of like ready to go, but it takes a longer time for women to come around to that. Do you think Ka is gonna help in this particular situation that is like everywhere in every household, typical nuclear family or a hetero relationship scenario.
Absolutely. And it again, it doesn't have to be in a hetero
Right.
type of partnership, but I see absolutely see what you mean
I'm talking
with
about
guys.
mine.
Yeah, I mean, of course, right? But for sure. So absolutely is how I would answer that. We've seen it with people. We've actually had people write testimonials on um, in fact how Ka has helped them resolve conflict. Because when you, and this is when both people are taking Ka, right?
Right.
That
Okay.
it creates a different space to come together. So we actually had someone who did this because she's like, I have this issue with this friend, and it's just been kind of bubbling, and just we need to tackle it, right?
Hmm.
And yet, there's so much fear of how we're going to do this. And she took Ka with, actually, the guy, it happened to be a man, right? And she was like, oh my God, it was night and day. And they were able to actually talk through things in a very calm and open manner where they were able to resolve their issues, which is one of the most beautiful testimonials I've ever seen. So,
Wow. Oh man.
and they that's from taking you from taking Ka. And so with your partner, I highly recommend it. Try it with them and see how it feels in your body and
Hmm.
see how you can connect more profoundly. I mean, it's heart medicine for a reason, right?
Yeah.
And it's a heart opener. And when we are less stressed out and less in our heads and our anxiety and everything, and we can just literally breathe deeper and be more heart connected, more coherent physically, emotionally, and spiritually, of course that is a way for us to be more intimate with somebody and then find, be able to kind of go, all right, I can relax now and I can open up
Hmm.
and I'm ready, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's for all relationships and any
Mhm.
dynamic. It's really just going to potentially improve the intimacy because of the state and the mind frame that you're going to be in. This is
Yeah.
it's really inspiring. So everybody get on over to the website and get yourself some. I think we all need this, especially in today's society. Stephanie, it was so great chatting with you. I can't wait to post this. We'll get it out in a couple of days. And everybody, don't forget to go over to the actual Instagram. What's your handle on Instagram?
Handle is ka.empathogenics. So that's ka.empathogenics.
Cool. And it'll be up here on the bottom of the screen for sure. Thank you so much for your time. And I'm looking forward to trying some of the kachus.
Sasha, just a big thank you. Thank you again for having me on the show and for connecting with you. I really enjoyed our conversation.
It was awesome. All right. You take care.
You too.